Good Lord. Well, let's go to a quick break, and we come back. We're gonna have someone who I had great battles with all through college, John Celestin, him in Villanova, me in Syracuse. But let's take a quick break, and we're gonna listen to the comments of Stephen A. Smith on what he had to say about everything. So we'll be right back with more of The Collision, where sports and politics collide.
I saw the video on numerous occasions. And seeing what transpired from a lawful perspective, as it pertains to a law enforcement official, don't expect him to be prosecuted. He was completely justified. From a humanitarian perspective, however, why did you have to do that? If you could move out the way, that means you could have shot the tires. That means you could have got her a few feet away after you shot the tires. And if you were unsuccessful in doing that, you could have got her down the road. You didn't have to do that. She wasn't driving down the road coming at you 90 miles an hour. She was parked in the middle of the street. And rather than get out the car, she wrongfully tried to drive off and wrongfully disregarded law enforcement official, which is exactly what ICE is. And as a result, lost her life because of it.
Oof. So that's Stephen A. Smith doing what Stephen A. Smith does. Yep. And, John, I want to go right to you. What is your reaction from hearing Stephen A. Smith explain what he saw in this incident?
Oh, Eton, Chuck, first of all, and I'm not going to make excuse. I don't want this to come off as excuses for Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith has entered this realm in media where he's always trying to walk the line, right? Stir up controversy, say anything that is the antithesis or opposite of what most of the Black community may be thinking to get. He's an entertainer. I've gotten to the point where I've accepted that when it comes to Stephen A. Smith. And I think that's how I hide my anger. I shield my heart from really getting upset when it comes to Stephen A. Smith. Here's what I will say about what he said. If he would have flipped the sequence and how he talked about what he just said, if he would have started off to me with the humanitarian part and talked about why you had to do that and all that, and then on the back end said, but from a legal perspective, he's not going to be prosecuted. I think I could have digested that a little bit better. But he flipped it. He started off by saying it's not going to be prosecuted, and then he went into the humanitarian on the back end. I think if he delivers that a little bit better, I can digest it a little bit better. But that's not what he did. I will say this though, Eton. I think he may be correct from a legal perspective about that the cop's not going to be. The ICE agent's not going to be prosecuted. I hate to admit that. It ticks me off, Eton, but I think he may be right from that perspective. And it's sad to say that, and that's where we are in America right now. But they're already setting it up to be able to use that, calling her saying she used an act of domestic terrorism. I watched the video over and over again. They easily could have stepped to the side, as Stephen A. said, shot her tires. They could have got her license plate. They could have gotten her later if they wanted to say she wrongfully left the scene. But that's the other thing too. That wrongfully word is what really bothers me. When Stephen A. Smith says she wrongfully tried to drive off. I don't know if he could have used if he could have said that better, the wrongfully, right? And imagine if she was a Black woman or a Black man, right? The wrongfully part is where I think he could have left that part out. You know.
Well, I think he put the part in there because he wanted to place the blame on her. I think that was very. He used the word that he wanted to use because he was saying that if she didn't do this, this wouldn't happen. He used the word like 3 times, right?
Yeah.
And then he said, and as a result, she lost her life. So he put all the blame on her. That's what I heard. Chuck, what did you hear?
I heard what you heard. First of all, have Villanova and Syracuse in the house is giving me some Big East vibes back in the day. I was I was a child. I was a Georgetown fan. So I'm still angry about the Villanova only going back to 85, but that's neither here nor there. Let me answer Tom's question. I think Stephen A used the word justified. I think he said legally justified. I made the point. I think I wouldn't be as generous because he used that word. I agree with the point, and I wrote it yesterday, that I do believe the cops will get off because the law on qualified immunity, I meant to say I feared for my life, is written precisely to get the cops off. Let's be clear. DAs get elected to have that law and put that in there. So if you're going to have that discussion that someone might get off, the next thing you follow up with is that law is a messed up, corrupt, often racist law on top of it. And if Stephen A is not going to add that in there, then the message he is sending is the law is okay. I don't have a legal and a humanitarian distinction. If the legal law is not a humanitarian law, then it's a terrible law.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the problem, though, because, every law is not a good law. You know what I mean? I mean, because it's something that, slavery was law, Jim Crow was law. You know what I mean? Just because it's a law doesn't mean that it's a humanitarian law. But John, the danger of him, he's crossing this realm, like you said, of wanting to be kind of a antagonist and take the opposite role. But he's playing to a certain crowd that wants to hear him say the things that that's
but see, Esau, this is what I'm saying. I've gotten to the point where I've accepted that's who he is now, because I think I kept trying to fight against. I came up. Stephen A. Smith was in Philadelphia when I was at Villanova. I have a lot of respect for how he's come up the realm and worked his way up the media and gotten to where I respect his hustle and his grind. Where I'm starting to get stuck is that now he's using this platform, right, to be this agitator, to be this contrarian, and sometimes to walk that line, which I think is very dangerous because of the power that he has. But I've accepted that that's who he wants to be, Tom. I've accepted that. He's not. I don't want to say he's not down for our community, but that's not where he wants to go. He enjoys the fame, he enjoys the clicks, he enjoys pushing his show. He is he is about Stephen A and elevating his career. That's where he is. And I can sleep that I've accepted that. If I don't accept that, I'm going to be angry every day, every time he says something, especially when it comes to the politics.
Well, it's hard for me to accept for numerous reasons. Like you said, the amount of power that he has, the level of, and that's the part you have to be able to respect, where he has been able to work himself up to, as being you know what I mean? What did he get paid for from ESPN? I mean, that's monumental for a black man.
$40 million a year.
$40 million.
Yeah, that's amazing. Right. But the fact that he's using his platform to do things like this, it makes, he has a big issue with Jason Whitlock. Them two, they don't like each other.
Right.
But they are literally doing the same thing.
Not much different, right?
I don't see any difference. I mean, they're playing to a certain a lot of, okay, all right, it might not be as egregious as Jason Whitlock. I will say that. But it's along those lines.
Well, you could argue it's more egregious in the sense that he has a much wider platform, right? When Stephen A. is appealing to Charlie Kirk voters, you know what he's doing, right?
Right.
You don't get $40 million a year from ESPN and these other places by not appealing to Charlie Kirk crowd. You just don't. And just to give a little evolution, because there was a time I was a Stephen A. fan, and there was a show, we mentioned this on the show a couple times, back in 2006. He had a show called Quite Frankly.
Quite Frankly, yeah.
And it was the best sports show on television. At that time, somewhat revolutionary. You'd have guests on. It was incredibly progressive. They would talk about racial justice. I loved it. It was my favorite show. And then within a year, it didn't get the ratings it wanted. I would argue ESPN did not support it. They kicked him off. He wasn't around for a couple of years, and he made a financial decision. I'm just going to say
he's a capitalist. Chuck, he is a capitalist.
Yeah, he is a capitalist with no bounds. And so, he could go hard on any black athlete. He won't go hard on Roger Goodell.
Right.
He won't go hard on Dana White after he slaps his wife. Right. He won't go hard on any owner. That's not what he does, unless that owner's like roundly hated. There's a tipping point like Donald Sterling. So all of his hate does not hate power. He protects power. And the most egregious thing that I believe Stephen A. did, because I was arguing with at the time, is around Colin Kaepernick. Yeah. That there's one thing to be loud and have an opinion, but he was saying facts that teams were interested in Kaepernick when they weren't. He was saying Goodell was giving a legit tryout to Kaepernick when he wasn't, and it was a sham. And I hold him more responsible than anybody, really, in sports media, for aiding the blackballing and the collusion of Colin Kaepernick. Part of it was his own ego, and part of it was that he was told lies by the NFL, and he believed those lies, and he stayed with them against the evidence. So for me, when he brought up infactual things to help blackball Kaepernick, that's even beyond opinion. So you could tell I am not a fan, but there was an evolution there.
Absolutely. Well, that's why I'm trying. That's why I'm trying to explain to Etan and Chuck Chuck, to you and Etan, on how I protect my peace by not looking at Stephen A. as that guy. The guy that we all wanted him to be, or want him to be, now that he's the self-proclaimed capitalist and he's only thinking about Stephen A. There are guys like Ryan Clark out there, Bomani Jones, that I still look to and I enjoy listening to, right?
Agreed.
I go to them for what we want Stephen A. to be. He's not going to be that, Etan. He's not. No. That train has left. That train has left, right? That horse has left the stable. It's over. And if we keep waiting for Stephen A. or wanting him because of his platform to be that, we're going to be disappointed, because that is not who he is.
And I hear you there, but the disappointment also is magnified every time that I see him do this. It's kind of like, I go back to the movie Bamboozled, and Savion Glover, he was an entertainer. Like you said, Stephen A. Smith is now an entertainer, right?
Right.
Savion Glover, who was Man Ray in that movie, he was an entertainer. They loved him. It was all over the place. He blew up. But there was a time eventually where he couldn't look himself in the mirror. And that's where I am still trying to hold out hope happens to Stephen A. Smith and Jason Whitlock. I'm trying to hold out hope.
Tom, man, I love you, Tom, but I got 40 million reasons to tell you to give up that hope. You know what I mean?
Hey, Tom, do you know?
Reasons.
But there's a certain point. So I'm relating it back to the movie Bamboozled. The money didn't matter. You remember in the character Savion Glover?
That train left the station.
This money. I can't even look at myself in the mirror anymore.
But that's because you're using your own morality as the guy who spoke out against the Iraq War in 2003 and could have lost your career. He ain't you.
But Etan, do you know anybody that has gotten to the Stephen A. Smith level, that has started to speak like a Stephen A. Smith, that has come back home? Can we name anybody as an example that they get to that level and then they change? And then what you're waiting for Stephen A. Smith to do? Is there anybody that we can point to and say, hey, follow that blueprint? I don't know anybody that's come back. No. I don't. I used to have this problem with Oprah. I felt like she got so big and then she started to kind of walk the line a little bit too much. And I said, she got so much power, she doesn't have to do that.
Yeah.
Right? No. And she never quite, to me, came back. Right? Who is that person that we could say has done that?
No, yeah, that's a good point. I mean, that's a very good point.
40 million is intoxicating. But I just want to make one point, because you mentioned these other writers. It's not that Stephen A. is elevated. It's that the other good writers or media, I like Bomani Jones. He was writing about Donald Sterling's corruption in real estate back in 2006, and they buried the article.
Right.
If Jamel Hill talks too much, she's gone. Have you ever read a Howard Bryant book? He is my favorite author. I'm going to tell you, Howard Bryant is my favorite sports author. And I'm reading
Agreed.
his books like, oh my God, I didn't see that guy on ESPN. And I don't want to say too much, but working in sports media, I had a conversation. And when Howard Bryant or others wanted to go to the place, they wanted to go at ESPN, ESPN wouldn't allow it. They wouldn't accept that article. So he knew these are the limits I had here. But I'm reading these books, Full Dissidence or The Heritage of the Black Athlete. I'm like, this is amazing work. I wish ESPN showed that Howard Bryant.
No, that's true. I mean, there's a lot of people. Kevin Blackistone. I can go down the list of very, very well respected. I mean, I still, even though we disagree a lot, David Aldridge. I have a lot of respect for him. A lot of the work. We just happen to disagree because he doesn't like that I put media in one bucket. But that's just something we're always go back and forth.
And you know what the sad thing is? ESPN is probably the most liberal sports channel. Like, if you're not going to be able to go there on ESPN, where can you go there? Like, what other?
That's the thing. They had the issue with Jemele Hill when she crossed the line as far as bloodline in politics and sports. But they're okay with certain voices, perspectives, and that makes me look at ESPN. Like, wait a minute. Why are you okay with this person but not this person?
And to your point, I want to change the word liberal. Diverse. They are the most diverse. That is absolutely a fact.
Yeah.
But there's a reason Howard Bryant or Bomani Jones is not part of that diversity anymore. Jemele Hill's not part of that diversity. You have to walk a line.
A certain line.
So diverse and being racial justice minded are two different things, and it's very important to see who they weed out.